What is up, everybody out there in YouTube land? This is Jay Phoenix Suns bringing you another video, a follow-up, a post-review of the Razer Wolverine V2 Pro for PlayStation 5. Now, the reason I want to go over this again is because I wanted to give this controller a chance, right? I wanted to plug it in, turn it on, just give it a full go for a full day or so and see what I got out of it. I wanted to see if it would turn me around, right? See if it would give me something new, a different perspective, maybe a different respect for it. Unfortunately, as I went along, I started to find more and more wrong with this controller. And maybe I wouldn't say wrong, but I would say more lacking. And in this, what I mean is that so when I was playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 on the PlayStation 5, you have haptic feedback, right? Meaning that if somebody hits you with a barrage of bullets, your controller feels that. And vice versa. If you let go of a bunch of bullets, if you start spraying, you can actually feel those bullets. And with each and every gun, you can actually feel the difference in the guns. So it really, some people don't like it, some people don't care for it. I mean, that's all preference. But for me, I definitely like it because it gives me more of that immersion. I wouldn't say more of a sense of a reality or anything, but it just gives me a little bit more immersion into the game. And I feel like if the console is able to do that or the controller is able to do that, then it should be able to do that at that price point. I could see if maybe it was only $100 or $50, like some of the cheaper, I think they're called PDP is the company, like some of their cheaper ones, then yeah, then I can understand if that feature is not implemented. But here's the thing. So for $250, I was looking for a few things, and I'm like, okay, comfortability's out the window because it feels like a chunky Xbox controller. The haptics are out the window. Motor rumble was out the window, and I think that was basically some of the main points in my initial gripe about this. But here's the thing. So I had to unplug my Kraken V3 headset in order to plug in this dongle since it sits in the front of my console and my console is wall mounted. So the back, it's kind of a pain in the, to take it off of the wall. So I just use the front, USB-A port. So, anyways, the controller's plugged in, so I didn't have that option at the time. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, let's use the onboard mic. Well, there is no onboard mic, and that was another strike. I'm like, good God. So I looked past that, and then I started thinking to myself, I said, you know, the touchpad looks like a touchpad, feels like a touchpad, but it's not a touchpad. It doesn't do what the original PS5 controller does, and that's you can use it as an actual, finger to touch movement pad, and it just doesn't do that. And then so I started looking a little bit more and I'm like, what else is it missing? And come to find out, it is missing the gyro. Now, if you don't know, I'm sure you know. I don't even know why I'm mentioning it, but in case you don't know, the original PS5 controller does come with a gyro built in. There are a few games that you can use, well, that I use the gyro with. And here's the thing, let's say I wanted to pop in one of those games, relax, use the gyro mechanic. Well, I can't because it's not in this controller. Okay. So it starts adding up, and I don't want to say that all of these are necessary to have a controller, but it's more that it's just the price point. You know what I mean? For that price, I'm trying to figure out what it's giving me to. So, another thing that really gets me is the trigger stops. Okay, so you have two trigger stop points. One is the short stop, which basically is a short press of the trigger. It holds the trigger button to where it's basically like a mouse click, and you don't pull down the trigger, in its actual motion. The other one is just the actual motion of pulling the trigger down. Now, I like to have the full trigger effect, and the reason being is because with the guns on like Call of Duty, you actually get to have that realistic, I don't know if I'd say realistic, but close to realistic feel of pulling a trigger. You know what I mean? You get to a certain point in the trigger, you get like a quarter way down, and boom, you start feeling the, the actual force of what would really feel like a trigger. And so it's missing all of that. And I'm like, for 250 bucks, could you at least put in like a third, like a middle stop or something, not just a full stop and a mouse click stop, because I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me, and it feels like I'm gonna break it. You know what I mean? When it's on the shortstop, I feel like I'm pushing because I'm so used to hammering down on that trigger that I feel like I'm gonna break it. One thing I didn't think about, but I read it in my messages, is that it doesn't come with a case either, right? And it would have been nice to have a case so that you can put your extra thumbsticks in there, but it just doesn't have that. And speaking of like the thumbsticks, that's great that they gave us two extra thumbsticks. That's cool and all, but what about the D-pad? The D-pad is an 8-way, movement D-pad, and yeah, that's great and all, but it's been done before and it's been done better on cheaper controllers. Like with the Xbox Series X, they have a controller. It's the Elite Series 2, and you can actually pick one up, I think for there's a version of it you can pick it up for 129, but I've seen it on sale. It's on sale for like 180 all over the place, especially right now. And that one comes with a magnetic charging base. It comes with, a couple of sticks you can take out, and you can actually tighten the sensitivity of these sticks as far as movement. You can make it, a lot more resistant, or you can make them a lot more looser, and you can actually remove the back pedal buttons. Now, coming back to the PlayStation 5 controller, the Wolverine, that's something that you just can't do. The buttons are stationary, they're there, they're built in, you can't remove them. And so if you wanted one or two just on there, you can't do that because again, they're fully built in. And so, like the Series X controller, you can move the trigger stops to, I think a few different stops, and on top of that, you can go into the app, which is built into the Xbox, and you can, move things around, sensitivity, you know, all of that kind of stuff with the triggers and with your sticks and all of that. There's some of that with the Razer Wolverine, but I guess that's where we're going to compare down the road, the dual sense um with the Xbox Elite controller. So maybe that's for another day, but all of these things, so basically what we have here is with the Wolverine is we have um no rumble motors, no haptic feedback, no onboard mic, no swappable D-pad. Um, you only have two-way stop on the triggers, no app on the actual PlayStation 5 itself, and the RGB lighting is bunk. You can only do one color at a time. No case, no gyro built into it, and it's $275 after tax. So, I mean, that's just a lot. And the sticks aren't parallel. The touchpad is not functional, like the original one. And you have to have a USB-A dongle plugged in for their hyperspeed 2.4 gigahertz technology. So all I'm saying is that I gave this thing a chance. I went back, I looked at it, played with it, sat with it, studied it, and it just comes out to where it's just missing too much. It's too lopsided, especially for something that like the original PlayStation 5 controller. I mean, that thing is full of a bunch of different features, and to have all of those features for 70 bucks, and just recently the controller was on sale for 50. I mean, that's a steal. So somebody might say, "Well, who is this controller for?" And I guess maybe if you want to plug in, but you can do that with the PS5 controller. I really don't know. I guess if you want the feel of an Xbox controller, if you want those little clicky buttons, they're mecha tactile buttons. If you want those, um, It has another feature. I don't really know how to explain it, but I'm sure you guys know. There's these two buttons in between the trigger and the bumper buttons, and each one, when you hold it down, I think it either makes your stick move a little bit slower or a little bit faster. So it kind of helps you slow down the speed of your aiming, I guess, as you're aiming. So it just it's a weird function. I tried it maybe once or twice. It was real gimmicky back in the day, and I just never used it ever again. So here we are, and this will be the last time I go off about this, but I just really hope in the future, I know I'm a small voice, I'm not going to get a whole lot of views, but still, I hope that in the future, Razer looks at this and they say, okay, for $250, we're actually going to make something that's worth $250. We're going to pump it full of features, and I get it, it's expensive. I'm not out in the field, so I don't know how much all this stuff costs, but I do know that on our side of it, we don't get to see that, so what do we have to base it off of other than what we have in our hands, you know? So anyways, guys, that's it for right now. If you have any comments, concerns, just put them in the comments section, and we'll see where everything goes, all right? So other than that, have a great day, and take care, guys. Later.